Welcome everybody back to another edition of the 4-Point Play. We got Mel.
Hi.
And Rye. And we got a brand new sponsor to the 4-Point Play and the MI83 network. It's Wingman VIP. And Mel, do you know that this is the hottest app on the market today? It provides mobile concierge service nationwide. And with the press of a button, you can experience a VIP rockstar lifestyle. VIP experiences from sightseeing to concerts to business networking are now all available safely and stress-free right at your fingertips. Now recruiting wingmen nationwide, so visit wingmanvip.com, download the app, and sign up today. Hey, they also have a contract to be the transportation for the NFL players, the NFFC, which is the National Fantasy Football Convention. So I know this is a basketball pod, but for all you fantasy football players out there, this might be something you want to hear. And they'll be in Los Angeles this summer. So if you're in LA and want to hang out with some NFL players, here's an opportunity. Sign up and go on wingmanvip.com today.
Super cool. So shout out to Wingman VIP. Everyone check out their website, sign up. And welcome to our newest sponsor. So you want to talk hoops?
Yes, let's get back into hoops. We are into the conference finals right now in the NBA. And we have a couple of quick hits today before we jump into all that.
So it's Tuesday night. I just watched the unbelievably boring draft lottery. So
I was spared from that.
Yeah, I watched it hoping something cool would happen so we could talk about it here, but nothing cool happened. So just in a nutshell, basically any team that doesn't make the playoffs, they get to be in the lottery. They got a whole bunch of ping pong balls, and your record determines how many ping pong balls you get, and that's the probability you get a top 3 pick. Only the top 3 picks are decided by the ping pong balls, and then picks 4 to 14 just fall in order of your record. So this draft lottery had the potential for such good storylines. Like the Lakers, who were in the number 2 position, they only kept their pick if it was a top 3 pick. So they had a 44.2% chance of not being in the top 3 and their pick falling to the 76ers, and it didn't happen. So we get to play this game again next year. Basically, this year's draft was so boring. The picks ended up exactly as probability said they would. Not a single team jumped the lottery. So boring. Done with that.
Boring.
All right. That was the draft. Draft lottery. Sorry. Draft is the last Thursday in June, I believe. So Another quick take. Speaking of the draft lottery, the winner of the draft lottery was the 10-win 76ers, who were also the very first team to sell their jersey ad.
Ooh, for the 2017-2018 season.
Yeah. So we talked about this before. The NBA owners voted to approve a tiny, I think it's like 2x2 emblem on the corner of the jersey.
Yep.
And they've approved it for 3 years starting in 2017, 2018. And then they'll revisit if they want to keep selling these ads. So the 76ers, being the pioneers that they are, have been the first team to sell their team sponsorship. They sold it to StubHub. It's reportedly $5 million a year for all 3 years, and I guess StubHub has the first right, to the space should the league continue beyond the 3 years. And yeah, so I guess they already have a deal since February with StubHub, where StubHub actually sells their primary and secondary market tickets.
I did not know that.
Yeah, so I mean, it's obviously a good synergy between the two. I think it's interesting they've already sold it. So
yeah, I was actually surprised. I saw a rendering of it, and I guess my whole interpretation of it, but thanks for clarifying it, Mel. I thought that they were going to have the actual logos of the companies, but it's not. It's just a plain, like, StubHub sign.
Well, I guess it depends on your logo. Like, if your logo is small enough to fit in this 2x2 or 2.5 by 2.5 inch space, I guess you could use your logo. Like, during the All-Star game, like Kia, like they used, like their font that they put on the cars. But I think, it's just a matter of like what fits, because this is a very tiny palette that they have to work with.
Right.
And, honestly, I mean, I know like everyone was up in arms at the idea of putting ads on jerseys. Assuming it stays this tiny and there's only one of them, I really don't care. Like, I don't want it to get out of hand. I don't want it to turn into NASCAR. I don't want it to turn
Right.
into the WNBA where like the sponsor replaces the team name and like for years the LA Sparks looked like the LA Farmers. Like, give me a break, you know? So as long as, you know, we're keeping it small, keeping it classy, you know, if they want to get an extra $5 million a year, so be it. Like, they don't have enough money.
Right.
Whatever.
All right. What's the next on the quick hit
All
list?
right. So next I have a topic that we talk about regularly on this show. Chris Bosh. So, you know, he didn't play at all since the All-Star break. You know, he was out, you know, making comments. His wife was out, you know, on social media, and they were saying like he's ready, and the team was, you know, really
Right.
quiet about it. I mean, it's getting to the point that there is a real fear within the Heat, or I can't even speak today. Sorry,
That's all
within the
right.
Heat organization that Bosch's condition may prevent him from ever being cleared by team doctors. And this is not like the Heat are overreacting. I mean, you know, no NBA team doctor will clear him. Like
Right.
it's a very serious medical condition, and it's really sad because you know, he wants to play. Obviously, the Heat want him to play, but,
Right.
you know, his health is, you know, more important. And again, this isn't like, you know, we're talking about, hey, he might mess up his knee and, you know, have a hard time walking when he's 50. I mean, this is a life or death health condition, and, you know, you don't want to mess with that. But, I mean, in my opinion, what's most interesting is the salary cap situation here and what happens if, you know, Bosch is forced into what I think is called a medical retirement. So he still has 3 years left on his contract. This is the first year of a 4-year contract. The Heat owe him $75 million. So
Wow.
yeah, so here's what would happen if he can't play for medical reasons. Essentially, you have to be out for a full calendar year. So the last game that he played was February 9th, 2016. So assuming he doesn't play again until February 9th, 2017, and an independent doctor has to like review this and all that stuff. But basically, the team and the players union, everyone goes in and like reviews the case and makes recommendations to the league. But if the doctors don't believe he can continue, the Heat can basically take his contract off their books for
Oh.
salary cap purposes. So he still gets paid his $75 million, but it won't count against the Heat's salary cap after February 9th, assuming, you know, he doesn't play between now and then. And, you know, this is critical for the Heat because they have to figure out what to do this summer. Like, do they have to
Right.
find, you know, a backup center? Like, and they still have him on their books this year. So, you know, are they going to take a luxury tax because he's on the books? Do they go cheap for 1 year? Or do they just go all out and say, we need to rebuild, like, he's not coming back?
Right.
So, you know, I think to me, like, that's the more interesting part because, you know, as we know, I'm more interested in the business of basketball a lot of times. So, yeah.
What do you think they would do, though? I mean, I would imagine that if their doctors are not going to ever clear him, it seems like, should they fast forward and try and get an independent doctor to come in or a third party doctor to come in and just.
Well, I think you have to wait the year. Like, I don't think you can take him off from a salary cap standpoint unless he misses a full year. So, I mean, I think they could probably start the proceedings, but they can't take him off the salary cap books until February of next year.
So they
So,
can't do anything regardless until that time.
well, what they can do this summer is they can figure out, you know, what is their game plan, you know, sans Bosch, basically. So, like, what are they
Right.
going to do without him? Like, are they going to open up the checkbook for Hassan Whiteside, which is, you know, the most likely scenario, I think?
I would think so. I mean, he kind of proved himself this year, and they went far without Bosch. They made it
They
to
did.
Game 7 of the semifinals, and they had a very good chance of going to the Eastern Conference Finals. So,
They did.
and I probably would be more interested in tonight's game if it was the Heat versus the Cavs, just to see Dwayne Wade versus LeBron in the finals.
Yeah, I think a lot of people were rooting for that. It was funny. I was watching a show, and there was a former player on, and I can't remember who it was. Oh, it was Robert Ory. And they said, they posed the question of if you're the Cavs, like who do you prefer, the Heat or the Raptors? And basically he said, I prefer the Heat because anything to avoid customs. So he just didn't want to go to Toronto because it was a pain in the butt. But I thought that was a really funny answer because didn't have anything to do with matchups and who was on the court and LeBron getting distracted in South Beach. He just didn't want to go through customs. So I liked that.
All right, what else do we have?
All right, so moving on to what might potentially be another retirement, not a medical retirement one, but presumably a chosen retirement. Did we witness Tim Duncan's swan song in Game 6 against the Thunder?
Ooh,
What do you think?
I thought last year was going to be his swan song, but then I realized what the Spurs were trying to do with getting LaMarcus Aldridge and trying to develop the next big three or the next big two, whatever they can scoundrel right now. And I figured he was going to stick around again just to kind of mentor and show them the ropes, etc. And I think he did that. So I don't know if there's going to be another year for him. I think that if it is his last game ever played, he had a hell of a season. They had a very good chance of being in the top contention of a record-winning season like the Warriors did, but they came up a little bit short. We talked about that in the last pod. And I don't know, that one rejection that he had towards the end of the game, and he fell feet up. I mean, that's not
that was the nail in the coffin, you think?
I feel like that's just, unfortunate what happened. And, Father Time, you can never beat Father Time, unfortunately.
Tim Duncan gave him a real good run, but he always wins. So Tim Duncan has a player option for this coming up season. It's a $6.4 million player option. So he could take the money and just, ride the bench all season. I don't see Tim Duncan doing that. It's not his style. He's always said that, he doesn't want to play unless he feels like he's really having an impact on the game. For me, I feel like if he comes back, it's clearly his final season. There's no way he's getting a new contract after this one. And we all know Tim's personality, and he is not going on a Kobe Bryant farewell tour.
Nope.
So I feel like if he comes back, everyone knows it's his final year. And while he won't kind of perpetuate it, it will turn into a Kobe Bryant farewell tour. And I just think that he doesn't want that to such an extreme that I think he's going to hang him up almost to avoid that.
Right.
I also, I checked his stats too, because I feel like he did have a good regular season, and he had a great Game 6, but other than that, he was pretty ineffective in the Thunder series. And then there was this element of, you don't want to have a recency bias and say, oh, he was so bad in games, 3, 4, and 5, he's old, he should retire, because his season was great. I checked his regular season stats, and they weren't great. They weren't bad by any means. I'm sure, he probably gave up a lot of minutes, to LaMarcus Aldridge and things like that. But he averaged 8.6 points a game. This was his first time in his career that he averaged less than 10 points, but less than last season he had 13.9.
Ooh.
So he's down, 5 points a game. I feel like he's down almost 2 rebounds a game. So, he was definitely still effective. He's Tim Duncan. He's amazing. He's absolutely a Hall of Famer. He's probably the best power forward ever to play the game. But, his stats were definitely slipping. They slipped a little last year compared to 2 years ago, but they really did slip this year. And I agree with you. I think he wanted to stick around to kind of mentor LaMarcus Aldridge. LaMarcus has completely figured it out. And I think he hangs him up before he has to go on the farewell tour.
I hope that's the case. As we've talked also in this pod, I'm not a big fan of the farewell tours. I feel like it's a distraction, and the Spurs are just too good of an organization to get caught up in the distraction. They had a phenomenal season that was mainly under the radar simply just because the freaking Warriors were on such a tear, but they were right there behind them, not too far away.
No, they were all season, and basically I feel like the only reason they finished with as many losses as they did is because they completely took their foot off the gas at the end of the season.
Yep.
They rested guys, you know,
Yep.
they didn't care about, you know, being undefeated at home. Like, that